So you've got an employee that's had an accident or is likely to be off sick for a while? Well, here are 7 tips for looking after them, looking after your team, and still getting the work done. Have a plan before it happens. As a manager and leader, there's one thing that is guaranteed, and that's this situation will happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. At some point, you'll get a phone call and one of your most valued team members will be off sick and probably for some time. So what do? Well, it's likely to be something that happens at the most inconvenient moment for you and the team. You'll have key projects in flight and the employee will likely be responsible for some vital work streams. In short, there's going to be a serious impact to you and the team. This is a completely predictable situation. As a leader, you should always be thinking of the time when one of your employees is out. Who picks up the work? What gets deprioritized? How are you going to update people? What are the company policies and the admin duties that are needed to be done? So as a leader, make sure you have a plan for when this happens. It doesn't have to be a super detailed master plan, but having some idea of what you need to do and how you need to do it will make things a lot easier for when you actually need to put them into action, and that will always happen. And it's not just from an organisational perspective either. Your employee might have had a serious accident or something that's got some really traumatic emotional consequences for them and for you. And as such, it might be really hard to even think straight for a while. Having a predetermined plan of action will make taking those actions a lot simpler, and it will require a lot less thought and mental energy than having to do it all reactively after a situation has happened. Involve HR or occupational health as soon as possible. As a manager, you don't have to shoulder the stress of handling this situation on your own. Especially in larger companies, there's likely to be a significant support network that you can leverage. And you'll often be expected and sometimes mandated to use it. Some places can drop managers into a lot of trouble for not following the official processes and procedures. So good advice is to get onto HR and occupational health as soon as you can. Seek their advice on the situation, make sure that they are implementing the procedures that they need to do. And then there's also occupational health that can get involved, and they can play a valuable role in helping the employee with their return to work plans and assessment of their working environment. They'll also likely ask for a statement of return to work, also known as a fit note in the UK. The employee will need to get this from the doctor. Not only does this ensure the employee gets the most appropriate professional help, it also helps share some of the load and the administrative burden of resolving the situation. And for the employee, it also creates a sense that they've got significant support available to them. They're not fighting this on their own. One word of caution though. As a manager, make sure you're monitoring the quality of service that HR, occupational health and other services in your firm are actually giving your employee. I've seen it before where a lack of attention to detail has led to the employee feeling unsupported. Things like a really slow or ineffective response, getting the person's name wrong, or underestimating the magnitude of their illness. They've all had negative impacts on the perception of the service from an employee perspective, in my experience. So don't assume that these teams will get it right. Keep an eye on things. They're your employee, you have the duty of care. Make sure that their work is covered. This one's getting back down to business. Obviously, the health and well-being of your employee is always paramount and something that should be the first priority. But we're still operating as a team here, and as such, there's going to be a gap left in the capabilities of your team. Who knows? Maybe that employee was the key driver of a signature project that was due to deliver in the next few weeks. Now what do? You're the team manager. Well, one thing you can't do is stop. You'll find that your stakeholders won't have that much patience, regardless of the unfortunate illness that has befallen one of your team. So you'll need to get things moving again. Firstly, get somebody else from the team involved as soon as possible. This stops work streams stagnating and it keeps up the momentum. It shows stakeholders that you're all over their precious deliveries and that they can have confidence things will keep going, albeit at a potentially reduced speed. And actually, if you've been managing your team well, then you should have a simple and easy substitute that should have enough knowledge of that work stream to be able to pick it up fairly easily. Because it's never a good idea to have single points of failure in your team, and certainly not for important or signature projects. So that keeps the work going and it keeps your stakeholders happy. But there's a benefit for the absent employee as well. I know for a fact that many people I manage would actually find the mere fact they aren't able to keep their projects going as additional stress on top of their illness. And additional stress is the last thing they need at this time. So it's great for you as a leader to be able to tell the employee to concentrate on their recovery because the team's got their back and is keeping things moving for them. I know for a fact that works wonders because then they have no need to worry about things having gone to pieces when they eventually do return. I also like to grab the absent employee for occasional 10-minute project updates at their convenience. And that's not because I'm obsessed with work, that's because I want to keep them involved and contributing and make them feel that they're still integral to the success of the team. Obviously, that's all dependent on the magnitude of the problem they're experiencing. Sometimes that's not possible, but when it is, I find it useful. So keep the delivery going. As a leader and a manager, you'll show your stakeholders and management that you have the ability to run a service for the company that reacts and handles the bumps in the road. And that'll be great for confidence and reputation all around. Be consistent. As a team leader, it's likely that you'll encounter the issue of sick or injured team members on more than one occasion. And if you've got a large team or a particularly accident-prone individual in your team, that could be pretty often. So one thing you must demonstrate is fairness and consistency of your response and the response of the company. I've seen it before where a manager has bent over backwards to assist somebody who's fallen ill and then not made anywhere near as much effort when somebody else is struggling with a similar situation. And that instantly creates resentment, mistrust, and generally doesn't end well, as it didn't in this case. People start thinking about favoritism and unfairness. So as a team leader, make sure that you're 100% consistent in the approach you take for every single team member that has a problem like this. Your company procedures will likely be there to guide you and provide that standard company assistance, but the attitude of you as a leader is vitally important. Be seen to be treating every issue with the same level of importance and urgency. Ensure that you're showing the same levels of empathy and understanding and providing the same level of assistance and work flexibility to everybody that's having a problem. And even if there are some aspects of the procedures that might be suboptimal, it's unfair for one person to have to go through them when others don't. There's one thing that employees pick up on instantly, and that's anything that's perceived to be unfair. So as a leader, be situationally aware enough to have a close eye on the consistency of the employee experience in all of its aspects. And be self-aware enough to understand when any of your unconscious biases might be rearing their ugly heads or affecting your decision making, because they will. Understand how important your role is. This is a mistake made by rookie managers and one I've seen a few times. I've seen managers not quite grasp just how much of a key role they play in not only ensuring their troubled employee is able to get back to work, but also to help them and their family get as much support and assistance as they possibly can. I've seen rookie managers treat a sick employee as just another team management problem, such as a project issue or a piece of admin, and that translates into a correspondingly blasé attitude to actually making things better. And quite simply, that is a fatal mistake. Once an employee gets a sense that either their manager or their company doesn't particularly care about their predicament, then it's pretty much game over. You'll have almost certainly lost their commitment and forget about them going the extra mile for you. Likely the only thing they'll be pushing to do is to find another job. The absolute best people managers not only avoid coming across like they don't care, but go completely the other way. They'll make the employee feel like the most important thing they have going on. They'll make them feel cared for, appreciated, and that their wellness is not only important, but fundamental to the operations of the whole team. It's basically empathy on steroids, and it works brilliantly. This is how true commitment is solidified. Your employee won't forget how they're treated in their time of need. It'll be very much remembered. And that's what binds employees to companies and binds employees to leaders. The role of the manager is one of the most vital aspects in getting that employee back in the game and contributing to the team again. Make sure you always understand that you, and to a lesser extent your own management, are utterly pivotal to the health of the employee. Involve the team in the personal aspect. So one of the previous tips had you involving the team in the work of their absent colleague. But did you know it's also a good idea to involve the team in the personal aspect of the issue? Obviously, that depends on the details of the problem, but in most cases it's a good idea to get other people in your team to understand, relate to and empathise with the predicament of their colleague. I like to encourage the rest of the team to reach out on their own and connect with the employee. And generally, if you've got a strong culture of collaboration in your team, that will happen naturally with people sending goodwill messages and such like. But there are other things you can do to show the employee that the team has got their back, they're there, and crucially that they care about what's happened to them. I sometimes get everybody else in the team to record a 10-second video message, a get well video message, and then I stitch them all together into a personalised video for the absent colleague. And I've seen this act as a great morale booster when people have been off suffering. So simple, but so effective. And this leads right on to the next tips. And one of the most vital that you need to show as a leader. Empathise. As always, the subject of empathy isn't far away from any leadership skill, and it plays a vital role here. True leaders start with an empathetic, understanding and listening response right from the start. Understand what's happened. Listen, feel their pain and relate to it. That's the number one thing to do. I've seen some managers open with the pragmatic, process-driven solutions to the employee's problem right out of the gate. And while those aspects absolutely need to be done, that initial time is all about empathy. It's all about empathy, connection and relating to the pain the employee is experiencing. Only when you're connected on the human level should you then put the rest of your plan to solve things into action. Empathy is a key skill when it comes to being an effective leader and people manager. You might have all the answers to their problems, but if you're not connecting and relating to the challenges of your team, then they'll be much less effective. Once an employee truly feels that you as a manager really do genuinely care about them and their challenges, well then they'll show you commitment that you couldn't even imagine was possible. Empathy is one of the core skills you'll find in emotionally intelligent leaders and teams. It's not easy to create a team that kicks it in the area of emotional intelligence, but I've got a bunch of great tips in this video that can help you and your team master emotional intelligence. So give it a try. I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.